Cheers, guys. Epyx911, welcome to the Thursday, June 29th, 2017 edition of VR News. I was really close, guys, to having Front Defense out ahead of the barrage of reviews. But close only counts when it's horseshoes and hand grenades. And with that really bad World War II pun, let's jump right into the news and start with Front Defense, which I summed up in my headline for the story as bland, boring, wave, yes, yes, and yes. And that is because it was boring. And what surprises me, well, there's a couple of things. Let's rewind to a complaint I saw from another YouTuber, Nady, who tweeted to me he felt it was designed as an arcade VR game, which it may very well have been, and it would certainly explain one of the issues I had, but I think it goes beyond that. And the issue that I had was the game positioning. So if you've got your room scale all set up on Vive, the game puts, at least the first half hour, 45 minutes that I played, it puts all the beginning things, the activities that you're doing at the extreme outlier, and in the first two cases, beyond the border perimeter of your room area. For example, you're lighting an ally cigarette. You grab a lighter from some, on top of the sandbags. You walk to your right. Now, if you've got a wall pretty much an inch beyond your border, you're not able to light that cigarette. Now, thankfully, I had green screen, but I literally pressed into the green screen to light it. You then man a machine gun on a turret, likewise, right on the extreme. I had to literally stop filming, go back, purposely redo my room scale, pull it back a foot in all directions, just to get everything to kind of line up within the boundaries of my play space. Why I've got an issue with that is this is Fan-to-Horn Studios. I talked about this just a few days ago when I was still looking forward to the game. These guys are internal HTC Vive development studio. There's a list of them. Their motto is, you can go to the HTC Vive website, only the best. Then what the hell was this? Certainly not the best. Massively, massively disappointing. And it's not the fact that it's wave-based. Three of my favorite games, Raw Data, Quiv VR, and Wrath of the Fire God, wave-based, like them all. And it's because there's more to the game than just wave-based. Sadly, not the case here with Front Defense. Now, I don't want to spoil too much. You're going to see it in the quick look anyways. But suffice it to say, it is one that I would just urge you to pass on, unless you see it really cheap for sale, or you want something that's going to entertain somebody completely new to VR. Massively disappointed in this effort by a supposedly internal studio. All right, next, a former executive with Sony PlayStation, Phil Harrison. He's invested in a VR studio called Dream Reality Interactive, which happens to be owned by a former coworker of his, Dr. Dave Ranyard. And that company, working on multiple VR projects, they've just completed their first round of funding, so his investment's basically right in line with that initial round. I guess we'll have to wait and see what they come up with, but interesting. Next up, Oculus Rift Inventor, Palmer Luckey, pledges, and I thought this one was kind of neat. It was basically a shot across the bow of Oculus. He pledges $2,000 to the Patreon for the Revive hack developer, which I thought was just perfect, right? Regardless of what you feel about the guy, whether you're Vive, Rift, or both, I find that funny as hell. So very cool. And let's face it, $2K for him, even if he ends up having to pay this massive fine, the judgment against him, he's got enough money in the bank to handle $2K. So I thought it was a donation with a statement attached. Let's put it that way. All right, and then next up, just to kind of show you the contrast in scale and scope of VR arcades, VR World in New York City, which opened up recently, June 24th to be exact. Kent Bai, he has that excellent Voices of VR podcast. I've talked about it many times on this show. He has a really good interview with the Chief Creative Officer, Drew Arnold, and the HR manager, Katya Stepanov, talking about the location. And it's neat to contrast it with having just been at Halifax VR and their model. So I talked about it briefly, but the Halifax VR model is essentially you pay per hour block of time, right? Or you can get a 2-hour block of time. VR World takes a different approach. It's buffet style. Literally, you pay a set amount and then you are free, just like at an amusement park, to basically do the rides that you want to do. Now, what I found was interesting is, like Halifax VR, this arcade didn't like the term VR games, but that dislike kind of manifested slightly differently. So with Halifax VR, it was just not wanting to refer to VR games as VR games and instead blanket them all as VR experiences because it helped sell the idea of virtual reality in not just being another game, right? A lot of parents hear that and they think, oh, Jenny or little Johnny, it's all about game playing, right? So I get that. Well, VR World, likewise, but manifesting a little different, they don't want to be called a VR arcade. Thus the name VR World. And likewise, they also say these are experiences we have here to offer. 53 in total, spread out over 3 floors of space. What'll be interesting to see is how that model works. I kind of feel that it's similar to Fitness World, which I think is still a chain. It's been bought. I think Steve Nash bought the ones in Western Canada. But the idea with Fitness World was lifetime memberships. And if you took a specific location and you counted the lifetime memberships sold by any individual location and had all those people who had lifetime memberships actually show up at the same time, you would not be able to get a piece of equipment for life or money. You'd be waiting hours to be able to do your set of exercises. I think it's going to be the same here. And Fitness World, like these guys, are probably banking on not everybody showing up at the same time and spreading themselves out over the different experiences. My only complaint with that would be, it's not a complaint, it would be a question, is what do you do as people get better with the experiences? You're going to find that buffet style basically starts working against you. When you pay for the hour, it doesn't matter if you're good, bad, ugly, indifferent, you paid for an hour of time. It's paid for every minute of that hour. With the buffet style, you could have potentially people hogging experiences, right? For a long time because they're good at them. And I could imagine stuff like Resident Evil 7, you can be good enough at that and enjoy the experience enough that you're playing it hours at a time, Elite Dangerous, etc. So be interesting to see if they maintain that model indefinitely or if it's just a launch thing, right? Next news story. Oculus has been sending pretty cool little trophies to their Touch launch partners. In other words, all those development studios that created launch titles for the Oculus Touch are getting little trophies with little plaques, as VR Touch development members and the trophy is essentially 2 Oculus Touch controllers on a base. And it looks pretty damn cool. It's a black award, so they didn't go for anything cheesy or gold or sparkly. It's just 2 black touch controllers, very minimalist, on a trophy base. Very cool. And the next story, Magic Gallery debut, a landmark event for immersive art. This one comes to me from Alex Lamar. He's also the creator of Cybust, which is the excellent little head that I have over there holding my PlayStation VR visor. Sent me this link for an exhibition only it's an exhibition of immersive art. So there's literally a bunch of riffs and Vives spaced throughout the exhibition, floor space, and people look at art, tilt brush, quill, etc. And there's examples of printed out 3D models that you can purchase, like an ogre troll type being in one of the screenshots I probably have up right now. And I love what he had to say about this. And this is Magic founder and CEO Okoa. So this took place at Terra Gallery in San Francisco, and he had this to say. He said, "The massive potential of VR lies in its ability to change the divide between artist and viewer. The shared kinesthetic experience of VR is where the real magic resides." And he came to that conclusion when he was first demoing units, Vives, and he estimates 1,000 fellow artists, that he'd shared the technology with. And he could never put his finger on it. That statement is him getting it, right? And then he says, being able to see VR as a medium for creation as opposed to consumption, and realizing that creating is as easy as reaching out and waving your hand is a magical moment. From that point forward, I knew I had to focus all my efforts around these tools and the artists using them to express themselves. So very cool. I have a hunch we're going to see a lot more of that, and it's likely going to be just an accepted art form like any other. Just very cool to have that concept and pick up on the excitement of it in ways we've seen others in the non-gaming industries get excited about the technology, right? Very cool. All right, guys, that is it for the Thursday edition of VR News. Hopefully tomorrow, a Game and Friday with my buddy Exity. We shall see. Guys, hope you had a good week, and we'll catch you for Game and Friday tomorrow. Cheers.